Hello and welcome to the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley and I am reporting live from the Miller Electric Center at the conclusion of the 2025 NFL Draft. As always, I have been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019, and we just wrapped up our sixth draft together. You can find our 24/7 boots on the ground 100% free coverage on social media such as Facebook and Twitter at Jaguars on SI. And you can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars have wrapped up the first draft class of their new regime. We're going to take a quick look, just recapping the draft altogether. At number 2 overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars, of course, took Colorado star Travis Hunter. At number 88 overall in the third round, they took Tulane safety Caleb Ranshaw. In round 3, at number 89, they took West Virginia guard Wyatt Milam. In round 4, number 104, they took Bayshul Tutin, running back out of Virginia Tech. In round 4, number 107, they took Jack Kaiser, linebacker out of Notre Dame. Round 6, pick 194, Jalen McLeod, linebacker, pass rusher out of Auburn. Round 6, pick 200, they took Rayon Lane out of Navy, safety. Round 7, pick 221 and 236, they took Jonah Monheim and LaQuint Allen out of USC and Syracuse, respectively. That is your Jacksonville Jaguars 2025 NFL draft class. The first draft class from James Gladstone, from Liam Cohen, from Tony Pizzelli. Folks, I think obviously there are different questions that you can maybe ask about, different strategies they had. Obviously, the biggest one, and I'd say, we just go ahead and get it right out of the way early. The biggest surprise from this draft is that the Jaguars invested zero draft capital in the interior defensive line. I mean, this was a spot that a lot of people were projecting a defensive tackle to go at number 5 overall, and the Jaguars did not add a single player to it. Jalen McLeod and Jack Kaiser, the only front 7 players they added. Jack Kaiser obviously is an off-ball linebacker. Jalen McLeod, is going to provide a little bit of a juice in terms of speed rush off the edge. He can potentially be moved around, kind of be a movable chess piece for defense coordinator Anthony Campanile. But overall, the Jaguars ignored the defensive trenches. They said that it will be addressed, whether that's through undrafted free agency. Maybe they try to get a gem there. Whether it's through NFL free agency, maybe they try to bring up a guy that currently is unsigned. And then, of course, they have the holdovers. They need Devon Hamilton, Eric Armstead, Mason Smith, Tyler Lacey, and Jordan Jefferson all to play well this season. I'd say Mason Smith, they specifically need to see take a leap. And I personally asked, at the conclusion of the draft, James Gladstone about Mason Smith and what are their expectations and how big of a leap he needs to make. And he went to say they expect a big leap out of the entire defensive line unit. He didn't say anything about Smith specifically, but it's very clear the Jaguars are going to lean on him a lot. They're going to lean on Eric Armstead playing like Eric Armstead, obviously playing more inside after the debacle of a situation he played in last season. Overall, my thoughts on the Jaguars draft class, there were a few interesting trends. It's very clear they were going after experienced players, guys with tons of starts in their career. Obviously, started with Travis Hunter. Caleb Ranshaw started a lot of games. Wyatt Milam started a lot of games. Up and down the list, it's really guys who were seniors, went to the Senior Bowl, or started 30-plus games, or team captains. To me, it'll be much easier moving forward, I think, to identify kind of what players the Jaguars are leaning toward. And most of these guys were high-level athletes. There are a few picks on there, guys who are kind of outliers in terms of, size, speed, etc. But the Jaguars clearly put an emphasis on veteran experience. They clearly put an emphasis on being ready to play now. And I thought it was interesting. James Gladstone said, if you look at the Los Angeles Rams last few draft classes, they drafted a lot of guys with a lot of starts under their belt for the purpose of knowing that, these guys are just ready to play right away. And the Jaguars have told us for months now that they are going to expect their rookie class to play right away. It won't be like I'd say the last few years where they had to do the rookie onboarding, where they drafted a lot of guys without a lot of experience, etc. So it's very clear, in my opinion, The Jaguars are going to lean on their rookie class. The other fascinating thing, I thought James Gladstone said, and he mentioned that this applied to Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner, and then for this class, I'd say applies to, Jalen McLeod. They like to target guys who transfer from small schools to big schools and then still end up producing. When you're taking that big step up in, the talent level, you're obviously going to need to be able to match that. And if you show that you can do that, like those guys did, like Jalen McLeod did at Auburn, I mean, he was an incredibly productive pass rusher, a rare day 3 pass rusher who actually has some production. I mean, last year he had 8 sacks, 13 tackles for loss. His first year with Auburn, 10.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks. I mean, he's definitely somebody who brings some speed off the edge. Now, my personal pick, who I think will be the most influential, is, Bashaw Tootin. I think Tootin can give them a home run threat at the position right away. To me, can even have some similarities to a guy like Bucky Irving, who obviously thrived under Liam Cohen in Tampa Bay last year. It wouldn't surprise me to see him play a big role early on, as the competition at the running back position has obviously increased. I also thought, just in terms of value, getting LaQuint Allen at the end of the 7th round, one of the best value picks the Jaguars have made in the last couple of drafts. If you just look purely at the consensus board, which I personally put a lot of stock in, they got, some pretty positive values, out of a lot of guys in this class. They stayed, more or less toward, the consensus. They, reach, quote unquote, a few times, but, there's nobody in the draft world, draft sphere, that I respect more than Dane Brugler. And most of the guys they drafted were more or less right where he ended up having them graded. So it wasn't like last year, I think, where you saw some obvious reaches. It definitely seemed like, this is a draft where they had proper evaluations. So personally, I thought it was a strong draft for the Jaguars. I think they wanted to go edge probably a little earlier, but the board falls the way that it falls. Again, getting Travis Hunter at number 2, that just to start, sets the tone for a draft class. It's going to be a good draft class. They could have let every other pick on fire and it'd still have a chance to be a good draft class, because this is a guy with Pro Bowl, multi-time All-Pro potential. But I thought they rounded it out. They placed a key emphasis on the offensive line, on the secondary, at the skill positions, getting obviously the 2 running backs, getting Travis Hunter. They got weapons for Trevor Lawrence, more versatile offensive linemen. I thought it was a strong first effort from James Gladstone and Liam Cohen, and I think the Jaguars definitely have a lot to look forward to. So make sure you guys stick around with us as we continue to break down the draft in the coming days. And as always, you can find me here next time.